Well, small by name, fiercely competitive by nature, and a massive loving heart, our dear friend James Small departed at 50, miles too young, and he will be missed by all. Our deepest condolences go out to his family and to his friends and to those who knew him. And well, what more can we say? A real legend of the game. It is a very somber first 15 tonight that we welcome you to, and a welcome to Butchie and to Bobs. It's tragic news to start with, but boy, what a loss to go so young, Bobs.
Just the person he was. I mean, there's one thing that in life you don't want to meet is your hero, because he might just disappoint you. And I've been lucky to actually call James a friend, and he's opened his arm towards me, always trying to find out how am I doing, how's things. And I mean, espresso, as I was saying, Butchie will not be the same again in Parkhurst. I mean, just seeing him and the vibrancy that he had, always with his family and always giving back. And I think he was underrated as a coach, because the passion that he showed with the kids was unbelievable. I mean, yeah, it's tough.
Butchie, it's amazing. You know, we chat about him. He was such a great player. We saw some of those clips there. Brilliant rugby player. But we chat more about him as the person, as the human being, as this larger-than-life character who was going to live forever.
Yeah, we all remember him as the rugby player, and we know how good he was, especially during that 95 World Cup. But like you say, it was his personality off the field that made him so special. You know, you mentioned his heart. I think that heart took up his whole body. You know, he had so much time for anyone he met. And I remember the first time I ever went into him was after one of your games, actually at Kings Park. And you remember the old stadiums, you could look over the wall and see the players after when they're warming up and after the game, and we always used to shout down there for the guys to give us their socks or something, you know. And I'll never forget it, the day that he threw his socks up to me, and from that day on he was always my biggest rugby hero. And then once he retired and once we all started playing, then we got to know the ex-players, and you know, and that's when he became a great friend of mine. And yeah, we're just looking through social media, you've seen how many lives he has influenced and how many people he's touched, and it's just amazing to see all that sort of things coming through on social media. And bumping into one of his friends, Solly Berkovic, at the airport this morning on the way up to Joburg, and just to see how devastated and distraught and hurt he was, you know. Such a good guy to his friends and actually to anyone. You know, he would drive past and see you having a coffee in a cafe. He would do a U-turn and come back just to say hello, you know. Such a lovely guy, and it's just devastating news.
And that's how we remember him, Bobs. You know, we remember him as the great player, but we'll remember him as a larger-than-life character.
I think he was way ahead of his time. I mean, if there was social media those days, I mean, he would have been an influencer.
He would have been in trouble as well.
And another thing, you probably have never played so much games. I mean, think about it. I remember him breaking the record of scoring the most tries for Springboks, and Percy Montgomery giving him that ball. And then you think about James, first Springbok to be sent off at the same time, but still the character of the human being. I think that's what always stands out with him. I remember we were coaching at the Investec Rugby Academy. We walked into to one of the hostels, and he says, I'm not sleeping here. I'm going to sleep in my car, because he never used to fly, so he had to drive down to Durban. I'm not sleeping here. This place is haunted. So he was that kind of person. I mean, he was a very emotional human being, and it sort of showed in the way that he carried himself.
Yeah, and you said he was a character, Babes, and I think, you know, we're all trying to figure out the ways to fill our stadiums again, you know.
Yeah.
And I think these are the sort of players that we need, these characters that will bring the crowds in. Of course, James, he brought in most of the girls into the stadium, but also as a schoolboy, I used to go to the stadium to watch James Small, you know, just because of the character he was different to the other players, and that's what we loved about him. So, I mean, if we could, we'll hear from a few of the Springboks later on in the show, and we'll start to pick up who the characters in that team is, and that's exactly what a team needs going into a World Cup, is characters like James Small.
And I think from a manager's perspective, obviously not an easy person to manage, because he was complex at times. And to your point, I think on our first tour to Australia in 1993, we had to fly to somewhere to play
Singapore.
against. We had to fly it was like a 2-hour flight on a small plane to play against, you know,
Dunedin Highlanders.
Just like the New South Wales country districts. And James went missing. and we didn't know where he was. We landed there and he was waiting. He got in a car with one of the media guys because he didn't want to fly. But maybe that's what made him, to your point, you know, this big heart that he wore on his sleeve, and the example he set, the fact that he was such a hard worker, practiced long hours, a real perfectionist.
I mean, one of the funny stories that Dickie used to tell me about him was you guys, Sharks were playing against the Highlanders, and Dunedin had a go at John Allen. and then he ran and he locked the team out at halftime because he wanted John Allen to apologise to him. Came out from the second half. James is sitting on the bench because John Allen hasn't apologised. Playing to the blind side. Where's the wing? James is sitting on the bench.
Boots off already, yeah.
No, it's a kind of guy that I think you're always going to miss. I mean, that's what rugby's about. It's about meeting people. It's about letting people be themselves in that space. I think he's one guy who really showed us that being yourself and accepting who you are, that's the best way to go about it.
And we're seeing some clips of the great player that James was, but what epitomises him for me is the fact that he looked at every challenge and accepted it head on, and none more so than the World Cup final when he put you had to play against Jonah Lomu, this man mountain, this beast. And James just set the precedent that Lomu would never score against us and never did.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Jonah Lomu in that 95 World Cup was probably at his peak, playing the best rugby he ever did, and we all know that he's probably the best rugby player ever. So in that World Cup final, he had nowhere to go. James was on him in a flash, and just not just that game, but every single game he played, he gave his all. And I think as a coach and as a rugby fan, that's all you expect from someone playing in your team, is someone to give his all. And that certainly was James.
I mean, the funniest thing, I mean, we mentioned the John Lomu, but remember about his test debut. He played against Inga Twingamala.
Yeah.
So he's always met all these big Polynesian players in the wing, and he always stood his ground. And he just showed how he could just do the almost. I love the fact that he could play fullback, he could play wing. I mean, the guy went to Greenside High. I mean, when are you going to hear Greenside High Springbok again? And this guy has really set up the platform, and he's just set up the whole standard of how to go about it, and joyful.
And we forget that he was an unbelievably talented footballer as well, Butchie, but also school soccer, real talented. Anything he put his head and heart to.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You said he wore his heart on his sleeve, and if he didn't like you, you sure knew about it. And if he liked you, he would show you love, So that's the sort of guy he was. And like you say, whatever he put his mind to, he would put everything into it. Of course, he had a few failures here and there, but whatever he tried, he put his all into it. And I think whatever sport he did end up playing professionally, he would have done well in, because of the effort and the heart he put into it.
Fun fact, James started Kwaito music, one of the biggest genres in South Africa. I remember seeing him with the Trompies trying to produce these guys. He thought this was a new big thing that he's going to put on. I mean, just for him to have that vision, I mean, Caprice in Cape Town is still happening, but James was a man that sort of brought the people to that place. Nino's, the franchises out there. I mean, he was a really shaker and a mover.
Well, what is so cool is that, as sad as it is that James has passed, it's wonderful to have these fond memories of him and live and laugh about his life, because he touched so many of us in such a special way. This is the life of James Small.
James.
How are you, my brother?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Good, and you?
Long time no see.
Good to see you, man.
You all right?
Yeah, not bad. I was standing there.
You didn't have much to worry
I
about.
was standing there looking around, and I was going, where is he? And all of a sudden, bang, man, you popped up. And I was like, where did that come from?
It was a pit bull in the Jack Russell.
Just trying to get him wide. Longer, has it. Tackling.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a hard pill to swallow. That's cool.
I have always respected James as a player on the field and the man that he is off the field, because of the honesty that he has. Whatever he says, he stands by.
I mean, I think the only reason people remember me is because of you. To be honest, I really do.
It makes two to tango, man, and you definitely brought out the best in me.
Now Tanu. Defence looks a little bit flimsy out wide. It gets there now for Lomu. Scragged to the ground by James Small.
Back you go. Take a minute, please.
He's just getting a little bit testy there. Lomu was involved. James Small.
Well, James Small did a fine job, made sure he got a decent hang onto his jersey, but at least he was able to contain him.
on. The drive on there by the big lad. And it's going to be a try, I think, for Strauss. He is pretty near a straighten when driving on. There's a real chance further out for Olivier. It's going to be a lovely try for Small. A magnificent try for Small. And believe it or not, he's on the wrong wing.
James hit the headlines when he became the first South African rugby player to be sent off the field during a test.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot from it. I think there's a time to say things and there's time not to say things. But having said that, I don't think I would have changed. You know what I mean? I still wanted to say to Ed Morrison what I thought of him. And you know, it's by having said it and learned that lesson that I can now be in the situation that I am right now.
Giving him his evident dump without the ball. There should perhaps have been a penalty there. But James Small is going to have all the legs to get it in the corner. Bobby Skinstad. Skinstad clean through. He's also got pace. Switched now to James Small and it's all over.
So there was a lot of contribution from the other guys.
So again is the stand-up. There he goes, this great big fellow. And it could be a try for James Small. And that equals the South African record of tries. James Small, a brilliant score, his 19th try for South Africa, and it equals Donny Herbert's record of tries in internationals. Swanepoel, Smith, Montgomery, look at the pace again of this fella. He's clean through, but he's given it to James Small. That's a new South African record, and that really ties it up for the Springboks. 47-10 they lead. There's only about 9 minutes left, and James Small has entered the record books.
How loud were you screaming in Percy's ear for that pass?
Percy told me before the game he was going to give it to me, so I mean, testimony to him, he's going to score a lot more, and you know, he helped the old man out today. So I mean, he's done well, and I can just thank him for that. But against Australia, the Sydney Football Ground, the first test, #93, we played under lights, and I scored 2 tries that night. I scored 1 try in the top right-hand corner. That'll to me is the best international try that I scored, you know.
Kick on the far side. James Small wins the race to the ball.
That tackle on Benazir, I think that was the most important tackle in your life.
Yeah, I don't know if it was so much a tackle, but I think it was. Yeah, it was. I think the hand of God came down and tripped him up, to be honest, because it was like I was there. I didn't realise what was actually going on, and he almost fell over me. You know, and all I did was hold on. I just remember grabbing his legs and just holding on for dear life. But yeah, I mean, it's one of 2 things that I can take out of the World Cup on the rugby field. You know, I personally didn't feel like I had a great World Cup. I was injured through the most of it. But it was one of the things that I felt that I actually helped, you know, or made a contribution. Well, actually, Johnny Roux said it, I think. Johnny said to me, all you got to do is tackle him once. Nobody expects you to tackle him even once. If you tackle him once, you'll be a hero. And that made a big difference. And then Chester came up and he said, just hold him up, just, you know, just delay his run a little bit and you'll get support.
Because wherever I go, man, if there's a South African in the crowd, all I hear is, James Small, man. That's all I hear, man. That's all I hear. And I go, yes, he is. And you know what? There's no animosity, no nothing, man, because I got to play against the best players in the world, and I got to mark you, man, at a World Cup final here at Ellis Park. Nelson Mandela that was here, and then watching that nation and what the Springboks stood for previously, to watch that country, watch your country come together and get behind that jersey, man, is powerful.
You know, what's amazing now is because I coach, the Latis that I coach, they range from 19 to 25.
Yeah.
And it's just a completely integrated game.
Yeah.
It's just equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Kids play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a privilege to be part of it now, you know what I mean? It's not like this elitist game that it used to be back in the day. And I think that had a lot to do with it.
Nah.
A lot to do with it.
No matter what anyone else says, no matter what anyone else does, professional rugby started from that game, man, in '95 here. You know, that's what changed the whole world and what they wanted to watch more of.
I think the greatest part of the whole celebration, we had a bus trip through Joburg Centre. And that's got to be the greatest day of my whole life, without doubt. It was just the most exceptional day I've ever experienced, having united the people the way they were. I mean, there was a black guy that picked us up here at Ellis Park and ran behind the bus throughout the whole trip, all the way. I mean, it was about 5 or 6 Ks that we eventually did, but he was behind the bus all the way, through all those millions of people and whatever. That to me was a one-off. That's never ever going to be achieved again in this country's history. And I think that's where I get my greatest satisfaction.
Back it comes to you, Sven de Westhuizen. Little knock forward, but that's it. South Africa have won the World Cup. Having been back in international rugby for less than 3 years and having not taken part in the first 2 competitions. On their first attempt, they have stolen the ground. Unbelievable scenes all around the park. Absolutely in tears. They all knew he had what it took off the field, a tremendous ambassador. He's proved it on the field now. And the whole of South Africa behind him.
Love you. Take care.
I'm lucky. I've got a lot of good friends, good family, my kids. So that's not that hard. Just got to get over yourself. That's it.
Okay, time's up. It's time to fly home.
Well, a true legend, a true champion, and a sad loss. And once again, our condolences to James's family, to his kids, and to those who loved and adored him. Guys, just before we go to the break, any last words on this icon who inspired so many of us?
I mean, you just think about that, Joel. A game, and wherever they go, their souls, and you think that Jonah, you think of James Small. It is an end of an era in a certain way, and it's something that we sort of benefited from it and opened up doors for a lot of us, and rugby became professional. We could see a career from that. So, I mean, for the work that was put on from those days, you can see now how the other guys are carrying the legacy.
Butchie?
Yeah, and I think the word legend gets thrown around quite loosely nowadays, and for me, he was a true legend, not just on the field, but off the field as well, and someone that's really going to be missed for a long time to come.
Yeah, great words there, and a great tribute to our dear friend James Small. We're going to take a short break. After the break, we'll have a quick look at the Springbok backline squad and see what's coming up this weekend. Well, last week we got a chance to look at the Springbok pack of forwards, and in fact that extended squad of forwards. Let's have a little look at that squad of backline players that will be somehow or in some way represented in the next few weeks. And I'll say that because the story is that Rassie is going to pick 2 different teams, that the one team will travel to New Zealand even before we play against Australia here at Emirates Airline Park. Which, when you look through that squad of players, I mean, it's an impressive bunch of players. The cream is really rising to the top.
Yeah, it is. It's a great backline squad, and 2 positions that I was really worried about before the squads were announced was scrum half and at centre. And I think the two players that he's brought in, that Rassie has brought in from overseas, Kobus Reinach and Frans Steyn, has really boosted this training squad and made it really, really strong. So I'm really happy with that group of backline players.
Forbes, is there any area which worries you a little bit?
Not really, Joel. I just think it's a combinations. It's the combinations of players playing together and having experience to play with each other. I think that's what he has to really get involved with.
So maybe linking to that then, if you are in Rassie Erasmus' shoes right now, we understand he's going to pick the 2 squads, and maybe in a way it does make sense. Do you pick your best backline to play against Australia at home, or your best backline to go to New Zealand?
Oof.
Or do you not pick your best backline and pick 2 mixed backlines?
But at the same time, you need these guys to be in the saddle. You need these guys to build cohesion. You need them to build synergy. So you definitely he has to really go out there and put his neck on the block and say, this is my starting team. You guys got an opportunity. I think clarity is going to be important for the players. Knowing where you fit in and what do you have to do to get into the squad. I think that's the only way you can really play it.
So Butch, it's 71 days till Rugby World Cup kickoff. Our opening game is against New Zealand. There's limited time. Is this the time where he picks his starting lineup and says, go forth and conquer the All Blacks away from home?
Well, just think of the confidence that would do for the players going into the World Cup, especially first up we do have New Zealand. But yeah, for me, I think he's got his backline written down. At the moment, there's a few positions down in pencil, quite a few of them down in pen. But I think these 2 games will definitely be for him to just cement that and write those names that are in pencil into pen.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there must be unbelievable competition in that squad for those places, particularly with the overseas players coming back. These are Rassie Erasmus's thoughts on exactly that situation.
Yeah, to match the leading sides in the world, I think last year we showed on and off inconsistently. We've beaten all the teams we played against, the top teams except Wales, which we couldn't beat. So we beat England, New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, those guys. Inconsistency is the thing which we must step up. And that's the thing we've been really talked a lot about and did some homework on. So that's where we'll have to step up. But I think the positive about that is, on the day we can beat any team. And the secret is now to find the consistency, and we've really worked hard on that.
Well, maybe not so much about the competition in the squad, but certainly one of the challenges he's got, Butchie, is to find consistency. And that is maybe a challenge we see in South African rugby across the board right now.
Yeah, we've seen that in our Super Rugby teams as well. One weekend playing well, next not so well. But what I liked, what he said there, was that he knows on any given day they can beat any team. And I quite like that, especially going into a World Cup. You've got to have that confidence that you're going into a game and if you guys do and play what you want to do, you're going to beat that other team. So that's a great thing to hear from him.
How important is that, Borbs, when you're going into that opening game against New Zealand in a really big situation? Because if you win, you get the easier road, the high road. If you lose, you get the tough road. And let's be honest, if history is anything to go on, 1995, the Boks won and got the high road. Australia lost, got the tough road, and couldn't get through the quarters.
Yeah, so it's very important. And just what Rassie really needs to do, I mean, how your players prep and how they get ready for test matches. It's now finding that tonic of making sure that these guys, week in, week out, they kept accountable to what they have to do, and they go forth and it just makes sure that preparation is key for everything. So then you can go into the field confident in what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Rassie's pointed out there, you've got to have that self-belief to go out and beat the other teams. We're going to take a short break. After the break, we're going to hear from 1 or 2 players as to their thoughts on how the camp has gone. Well, you can just imagine the pressure on the players in that camp as they now prepare, and they've got a long haul in camp. It's a long time. I think it's something like 19 weeks, Butchie, from entering camp to the probable end of World Cup, to somewhere towards the final, hopefully the final or after the final. It's a long time, and the pressure is certainly mounting.
Yeah, and like Bob said, hopefully Rassie has had meetings with every player and let them know exactly where they're standing at the moment. You might be second choice or third choice at the moment. You're not going to the World Cup. You're getting a game against Australia, or you're playing against the All Blacks. If you have a good game, you might work your way into that World Cup squad. So at least the players sort of know what they can mentally prepare for and get themselves ready. So like you said, it's a long build-up, and then a long World Cup as well, you know. So it's going to be tough on the players, but that's why they need to be mentally prepared and know exactly where they stand with the team and with the coach.
Bob, how important is it in that competition for places to understand where you're at?
It goes a long way, Joe, because now there's no, I guess, most of the time players really do talk in the corridors. And if someone doesn't come with clarity, especially a coach, and then it builds that negative sort of spiral that starts sort of setting into the team. So you need the guys to be saying, you know what, I'm here, I know I'm second best at the moment, but I want to make sure that I can get into the starting lineup, because you want to be part of that starting lineup. You want to be part of that 23 that runs out and does South Africa proud.
So, I mean, we are running out of time already. We're not going to get a chance, unfortunately, to hear from Apiwe Diankio, the Beast, which we were hoping to have a chat to. Just quickly, when we continue this chat on the backs, Butchie, we're going to the World Cup. It's a backline that is set up to play quite quickly. It's well balanced, a couple of big ball carriers, lots of pace. Lots of kicking ability. What is going to be the secret of the recipe at the World Cup if we are to go forth and conquer once again?
Yeah, I think it's going to be our bench. I think I mentioned Kobus Reinach, a player like himself, or if you swap him and Faf de Klerk around, imagine bringing on one of them with 20, 30 minutes to go. You know? So for me, it will be those extra players that have come into the squad that are going to add so much value off the bench. I think our starting backline sort of working itself out, and we pretty much know who they're going to be, and that's going to be really strong, especially out wide. I think we've got a lot of depth there, and then I think our bench is going to be vital for us.
And obviously, I think we've got to kick our goals.
Joel, I think we need variation. We need to be a team that can play any condition. We need to be adaptable to any situation that we face up onto the game, because in that way that we can always stay up front and stay ahead of the opposition.
Well, as I said, 71 days to Rugby World Cup. We're all really looking forward to that. There's also another start this weekend. It is the beginning of the Currie Cup, and some nice big fixtures to start. We'll obviously tomorrow night, Sharks against Griquas. Butchie's at that game. Saturday it is the Lions against the Pumas.
We're doing that game.
We're doing that game. And then there's the game in Cape Town.
Me and Babes tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night at the Sharks.
As well.
It's a long weekend.
It's a long weekend. It's a weekend of work. It's a weekend of rugby. It'll hopefully be a great weekend. It certainly won't be as somber as tonight has been. And once again, we pay tribute to our dear friend James Small tonight. And what an icon, what a legend. And condolences once again to his family. Guys, thanks very much for joining us.
Cheers, Paul.
And we look forward to a wonderful weekend of rugby. We'll see you same time, same place next week.